Hey everyone, Steve Kim here. So excited. Steve Kim Show episode number 100. Yes! I finally made it to 100, but obviously the stats are far more important than just me declaring this a 100th episode. So the much anticipated May stats are in, and as usual, I got your numbers and stats as they pertain to the detached and townhome markets for both Toronto and certain pockets of York region. So let's get right into it. So that average detached property in Toronto back of April 2020 was trading just over $1.25 million. Fast forward into May, we see that average detached property in Toronto climb up to trade just over $1.42 million. Well, what happened in Richmond Hill back of April 2020? That average detached property was trading at $1.47 million. Fast forward into May, and that number dropped to $1.32 million. Well, what happened in Markham? In Markham, April 2020, that average detached property was trading at $1.26 million. Fast forward into May, we see it creep up just a little bit to $1.36 million. Now in Vaughan, what happened? That average detached property went from $1.24 million in April up to $1.34 million in May. Now months of inventory, this is all supply versus demand, checks and balances. In Toronto, from April to May, we went from 3.7 dropping down to 2.9 for May. In Richmond Hill, we went from 7.8 in April down to 6.4 in May, and so still very much a buyer's market in Richmond Hill. Now in Markham, what happened? We went from 5.5 months of inventory, a balanced market, down to 3 months of inventory. So starting to very much getting into a seller's market. And same thing in Vaughan, what happened? We were at 7.4 months of inventory, which is a buyer's market, getting into now 4.2 months of inventory, which is slowly starting to creep into a seller's market. Now the townhome segments, what happened? In Toronto back of April 2020, that average townhome was trading just over $952,000. In May, it broke the $1 million price point at $1.017 million for that average townhome in Toronto. In Richmond Hill, what happened? We saw a similar price increase. That average property, a townhome in April, was trading just over $895,000. And then in May 2020, that average townhome in Richmond Hill shot up to $941,000. Same pattern in Markham. The pattern in Markham went from just over $875,000 in April, just dipping just a little bit to $871,000 in May. And then Vaughan, what happened? Vaughan, in April 2020, that average townhome was trading just over $887,000. And we see a little bit of a drop down to $874,000 for that average townhome in Vaughan. Now, months of inventory, again, supply versus demand. In Toronto, we are 2.6 months of inventory for April, dropping to 2.4 months of inventory. So very much a seller's market for townhomes. I'm going to say in a majority of neighborhoods in Toronto. Well, in Richmond Hill, what happened? Richmond Hill, we went from 2.5 months of inventory in April to 2.9 months of inventory in May. So still very much a seller's market for Richmond Hill townhomes. In Markham, what happened? Markham, we went from 2.2 months of inventory in April, and we went up to 3.2 months of inventory. So we saw more inventory coming to market and not as much inventory moving. Now in Vaughan, what happened? Vaughan, we went from 5.1 months of inventory in April, a balanced market, down to 2.7. So very much starting to get into a seller's market. Now the year-over-year price fluctuations, this is what we should really be paying attention to, not necessarily just the month-to-month fluctuations. So that average detached property in Toronto back in May 2019 was trading just over $1.38 million. And as I just shared, in May 2020 in Toronto, that average detached was trading just over $1.42 million. And that's about a 2.9% increase year over year. That is a healthy increase year over year. Now in York Region, what happened? That average detached property in York Region back in May 2019 was trading just over $1.1 million. $1.11 million. In May 2020, that average detached property in York Region was trading just over $1.18 million. And that's about a 5.8% increase year over year. Anyways, I hope you found these numbers and these stats useful on the Steve Kim Show episode number 100. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to give me a call, send me a text, shoot me over a DM or an email. I hope everyone's staying safe and staying healthy. You all know the drill because it's been 100 episodes. Be great, be kind, everyone. Take care.